Welcome into another edition of the Q&A, Questions and Alcohol. And as we like to say, we have the questions, they have the alcohol. And joining us this week with that is Tim Luscher, co-owner of Sig Luscher, and Dylan Greenwood, brewmaster there as well. Guys, welcome in.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm just happy I think I finally figured out how to say Luscher, because I screwed that up for so many years.
We've heard it so many ways, and I tell people, as long as you drink the beer, I don't care. But my favorite pronunciation, because I said living with the name, you get Luscher a lot, Luscher another half the time. And then the first and only, we were doing a festival in Jackson, Kentucky. Great festival, great people. We had a couple of regulars throughout the day, and another couple was looking at the kegs. He goes, "So how do you pronounce it, Luscher or Luscher?" The couple in front goes, "No, dear, it's Luscher. They're French." They bought
You're
beer.
fancy.
We're fancy. We're now fancy beer.
Historically good and now fancy too. So
Yeah.
it all works out. So now, we talked to you a while back on one of our other shows we do, but this one's definitely a little more Kentucky focused. And for those that may not know about either one of you, they may know the beer, but they may not know the people behind it. You want to tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Why don't you go first?
Sure. Well, I've been a brewer in Kentucky minus 1 year for about 12, going on 13 years now. Started my career at Bluegrass Brewing Company, the original location. Moved to Bluegrass Brewing Company Distribution, which is now Goodwood. Then I did 1 year in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, brewing for Foothills Brewing Company down there. Then I came back and I was the brewmaster at Falls City Beer in Louisville, Kentucky for 3 years. And then Tim and I found each other and started this place. It's been going on 4 years now, about 3.5.
It's actually we're past 4.
About past 4. Well, see, time flies.
Yeah. So my background is actually not in brewing. I am from Frankfort. Obviously, the family's been here for a very long time. I moved away for a while, and during those travels, I drank a lot of beer. And over those time, I also kind of figured out exactly what I liked in beer. There was opportunity while I was living not in the state at the time when Dylan and I met to reopen our family brewing, and we took it. Things moved really quickly as soon as we made the decision to open the brewery. Frankfort embraced us. It's been a fun ride. Not anything light and day different what I expected. As anybody will tell you that you might want to rethink opening a brewery, but once you're in, you can't do anything else.
Well, and it's working out great for y'all. And Dylan, if I remember correctly, were you a teacher during that 1 year break, or was that before you got into brewing? Because
that was before. Yeah, that was my previous life. Yeah, I did elementary school teaching, taught 2nd and 3rd grade, classroom teacher for about 8 years.
And did you have the beard and everything then too?
No, I'm more rock the goatee at that point. And near the end, the beard started coming out. At one point, I was teaching full time and brewing part time, and it was just too much. And the beard really came out then.
Well, and it seems like you made a great career choice there, as you guys are brewing some good brews over there. And
appreciate that.
And for those that don't know, when it's called Sig Luscher, that is Tim's relative, right? That's your great. How many greats are we talking about here?
3 greats. So it's my great grandfather. As I tell people, Sigmund from Switzerland. If anybody's interested, it's Sig, August, Tim. Guess whose father hates the name August?
I mean, did you bring back August, or is that one for the history books, at least for a little while?
No, my daughter was this close to being named in August, but she got Mary Grace instead.
There you go. Now, speaking of Sig, I mean, I know you guys love to share some stories, so I figure maybe we can start off with a story of Sig and then finish it at the end as well. So what's a good story? Because I mean, Sig came over really early on, and I'm sure there are some really fun things you get to share.
Yeah, that's one of the best things about having a historic brewery is you do have these stories to share. It's as much about the history of the place as it is about the beer. Luckily, we've got both and have great beer thanks to that man. But so with that, Sig came over originally in 1855, settled in Memphis. Things didn't go so well in 1855 nationally. We went back to the back to Switzerland and came back. So as I tell people, we're standing now in our third brewery. The first one was in Memphis. It was burned down. The second one was across the street, about 100 feet from where we're sitting now. And it was torn down in 2003. And then we've been here since 2018. But the point being is we've been around for a long time. South Frankfort, grow, changed, not changed so much. It's much more of a Wild West back then. I think of that time, what you hear about, whether it being bourbon barons, beer barons, railroad barons, there's always a creativity in their marketing strategies. Because you didn't have social media, you didn't have what we're doing now. So you had to make much more of an impact. And I tell the story of some contemporaries of Sig, Mr. Heineken being one, and they'll tell you the same story on their tour, that when he wanted to sell beer, he'd go into a brewer or go into a bar that didn't have his beer, but he wouldn't go in, he'd hire an actor, and the actor would order a Heineken. And the bartender would say, no, we don't serve Heineken, but you don't serve Heineken. Huge scene, next day, Heineken's on tap. E.H. Taylor did something similar. He would go to a bar that he wanted to be in. He would take empty cases of his bourbon and throw them in the trash across the street at the other bar and walk in. Hey, you want to pick up my bourbon? Your buddy across the street's killing it. Look outside. Sig has a similar story. We jokingly call it one of the first drunk texting. It came about doing research to newspapers. And there's a period of time, late 1870s, where we were getting references of Sig and his beer nationwide. So we've got references in New York, DC, Dallas, Des Moines, Iowa, West Virginia, the ones I can think off the top of my head. And we couldn't figure why, because this is late 1870s, beer doesn't travel that well. But everyone seemed to know about Mr. Luscher and his famous lager. Then we found an article, not very big, in about a week or two before these occurrences. And the Associated Press at the time was invited to the legislature for whatever was going on. And written in the paper was, then Mr. Luscher, the local brewmaster, graciously invited us down to the brewery. There were 30 of us, at which we drank 50 beers each in 30 minutes. You do the math. He got him a little shit-faced. But as he's doing that, as people that have a little bit of too much drink are complimenting the brewery, brewers, many people do around here, telling him how great his beer was. He said, well, that's a telegram over there. Telegraph. Go tell your people. And so it's the only way we can figure out how the mention of our beer is so many places around the U.S. at that one period of time.
That is a great story, and a very smart man at that to come up with some pretty good marketing, kind of what you old school. I mean, you can't pay for that kind of marketing.
You can't do it again now, so.
You could try, but it wouldn't be exactly like that for sure.
I honestly think we probably could now with the social media. Just walk around, hey, put that on Facebook. Hey, put that on.
And Dylan, for you being there, I know one of the draws was kind of that love of throwback brewing, and that's kind of what you guys are known for. What is it about those historical styles that you just love to brew and be able to share with folks?
Well, the big thing about historical brews is that they've been proven, to be good beer. If you're doing something innovative, it might stick to the wall. It might be a fad, but these old styles have stuck around for hundreds of years for a reason, because they're good beer and they taste great, and it's fun to see what people did in the past and how people are interpreting them now, and kind of try to find a way to make a beer that I think people will enjoy out of that, the research and also knowing the science of brewing. It's kind of a cool amalgam of all the parts of brewing. You add that extra piece of history in there, and it's just another layer.
And
touch on that, Jonathan, is it's also really fun to see people that are beer lovers, but they're more new school beer lovers. And so I'm not saying they haven't had a beer, but they've had very different types of styles of beer, and have them come in and be just, well, I don't like beer, or I don't like this type of beer, and then finally taste it. That's what I consider a really true to style beer. Go, oh, I like that. That tastes like beer. And we laugh. It tastes like beer is probably the best compliment we get, because that's what we're really shooting for.
Absolutely. And you know, when you think of that too, especially when you're going on historical styles, I mean, nowadays you have a whole lot more equipment, a little more ability to kind of hone in on what you're looking for. How much do those recipes differ than say in the past, or is it just basically just new equipment and kind of the same old recipes?
Yeah, I think basically just the equipment's changed. There was probably a lot more infected beers and, flat beers and warmer beers back in the day. But as far as the recipe and the heart of the beer, I think has remained the same. And I wanted to say to Tim's point about, how, these styles exist for a reason and that people seem to enjoy them. Our flagship Pilsner is a really good, example of that, because we'll get somebody who's like, oh, I only drink Miller Lite. Well, try the Pilsner. And then we get somebody, oh, I'm a big craft beer guy, and I usually stick with juicy IPAs or hazy IPAs. They'll try the Pilsner, and we rarely get anybody who does not like the Pilsner. So, and that's not all on me. That's because, I'm on the back of, 100+ years of other brewers developing that style. So.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, historically good, and it's one of my favorites that I enjoy picking up from the store, especially local brews as well. And when you're still doing those historical styles, I know you guys like to still kind of, I don't want to say make it new or tradition, kind of what we see today, but you guys do add a little bit of flair to it. I know some strawberries that come from the Luscher family will find their way into some brews as well. So what do you guys have maybe in store that you can tell us for the spring and summer, as far as some of these, or just some of those styles that you're able to kind of bring a little bit of flair to, and even though they're historic?
Well, yeah, well, and just talk about that a little bit before I get into the specifics. I like to kind of bring the old school and the new and put them together, because that's what Sig was. He was, a European brewer who came to America, and we are a new brewery that is an old brewery. So we kind of like to mix old and new a little bit, but still, the traditional is going to stay, or the Pilsner and stuff like that, and traditional styles are going to stay pretty traditional. But that being said, we do every summer when local fruit pawpaws are ripe, we do a pawpaw sour, which, they did do sours in Germany in the 1800s, but it was pretty few and far between. But that's a fun one to do, because we bring in that local fruit that a lot of people don't really even know exists, but it's really fun to play with, and people seem to love that beer.
And it's actually, and the people that don't know pawpaws, they are delicious. They're like a banana. They're terrible to clean. Yeah. And so big shout out to our friends at K-State University who has a pawpaw program, and they bring us pureed pawpaws, because it makes a world of difference in making pawpaw beer.
Makes my life a lot easier.
Plumbing thanks you too.
Right.
And any other things that you guys get to do, maybe with the season changing, and maybe using some of those fresh fruits that we find around here?
There usually is a kind of a seasonal beer. And you mentioned the strawberry Hefeweizen, and that was one that Dylan and I came up a couple of years ago. And it really was between just a regular Hefeweizen, which was amazing in itself. With the strawberry Hefeweizen, the deciding factor was, when we were discussing it, I called our fruit supplier for a price. And I'll get back with you. And at 7 o'clock the next morning, I get a phone call. Your 800 pounds of strawberries are here. So the story, it sounds great that the reason we do it, and it's true, the reason we even thought of it was that my family's been growing strawberries since about 1871. The real reason we made it is we had 800 pounds of strawberries. Luckily, when we did the tastings, the regular Hefeweizen, we sold out of it in about 2 hours, which is kind of normal for a keg. The strawberry Hefeweizen we sold out in 17 minutes, so we declared it the winner. That's our summertime beer. Dylan does a lot of one-offs through the year as well. We've done a watermelon Kolsch. We did a Berliner Weiss a couple of years ago for Derby. It was not, the beer itself wasn't flavored, but we served it more traditionally. So we had 3 different syrups to go along with it, so people could try to see how different additives kind of change the beer flavor. So that's one thing about being able to brew scale and also have smaller systems that we can use, which is behind us. That's our R&D and our barrel system that Dylan's brewing the Kentucky Common on right now. So it lets us really play around with it. Some other beers we were considering actually canning, Dylan's come up with an amazing Imperial Pilsner. Done the Kentucky Common, 66, and believe it or not, he does a Sig Light that we're just looking for room on a tap or on the kegerator for, because you quite honestly, you just drink it all day long. It's so crisp and clean.
And for a while, we had a dedicated cider line, which we've kind of gotten away from during the winter, but we'll probably bring back.
We'll be back on summer, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like I said, when you're naming those styles, those are those traditional styles that I think when people actually get to try them, they really enjoy. I love a Kolsch. Berliners are great as well. And you mentioned, of course, the Pilsner there. One that you also said was the Kentucky Common. And I know you've got a fun thing coming up at the end of April. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to give thanks to the governor's office for really taking the lead on this. It was an idea, I guess collectively, the Kentucky Common being one of only, I believe, 3 indigenous U.S. beers. We're lucky to have it. But then also, give it the recognition it deserves. And, talk about the guys over in Louisville Ale Trail who did a lot of work pushing proclamation through from our end, this is with the thanks to the governor's office. We're putting on hopefully the first annual pre-Derby kickoff in Frankfort, and that's where their interest lies, but also in conjunction with Commonfest. And the idea behind it was to highlight the Kentucky Common. Not a lot of people have tried it. We think a lot of people are going to love it, but then also the Kentucky heritage and common, the common Kentucky Common for common people using common ingredients. We really kind of have a festival called Derby, which is very fancy, with a music festival, an arts festival. We have food trucks. We're looking at probably 15 to 20 breweries, and then in addition to our bourbon friends as well. And that's all happens on April 30th from 12 to 5. And if you're familiar around Frankfort, it's at the Capitol. You can't miss it. It's a big building in the center of town. We're setting up tents there that will be parking on site. So come down, there'll be people directing traffic, but it's free to show up, all day long music. Like I said, just a lot of fun. So I hope to see everybody there. And hope everybody gets that chance to taste all the different types of, even though Kentucky Common is a style, there's a lot of interpretations of the product, because it's, a very versatile, working class beer, but it's really fun to see what everybody's take on it is.
Yeah, and it's like he said, it's a wide variety within the style, kind of like an IPA can taste so different depending on how the brewer interprets it. And yeah, one of the reasons for that is just because so little is known about the style. It died for basically 3 decades, well, longer than that. It died for about 50 years. And so we're just kind of picking at scraps to try to find out stuff about the style. And I even talked to the person who wrote the guidelines for the BJCP. And she said the only thing that she based the color on was black and white photos. So she's like, so go anywhere with the color you want to, because I didn't have much to go on there. So.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, for those that may not understand what the Kentucky Common is, can you kind of at least explain, Dylan, what folks might be enjoying, so to speak, kind of if there's something similar, or that you can go, hey, it's this,
Sure.
But with this,
Well, if you're familiar with the style cream ale, which is like a Boddington's or a Little King's, it's basically a dark version of a cream ale. Some brewers will also add other adjuncts in there to kind of play tribute to Kentucky's whiskey history. So I add some rye in mine. So you have a percentage of barley, a percentage of corn, a percentage of rye, and then some sort of dark malt to give it some color. Whereas a cream ale is just going to be, straw color. One of the things also is that it's very low in alcohol. Usually comes in between 3.8 and 4.2%. And that was, so people could drink a lot of it. So B, the brewers could ferment it as quickly as possible and keep the price down so the common people could afford it. But yeah, it's a easy, clean drinking beer. Even though don't let dark, turn you off because some versions aren't as dark as others. And a lot of them aren't, they don't taste like porters or stouts. They're a lot, cleaner and crisper than that.
Well, and I love that. And it's for those that are in Kentucky or visiting, it's one you got to try, because I mean, it's literally the beer of the Commonwealth. And for you all there at Sig Luscher, I know you're what, 100 yards or 100 feet from where your second location, so to speak, was. Can you talk a little bit about the unique structure that you're in now and how it's changed over the years and kind of grown, and how you all have grown?
Yeah, unique's correct. If anybody's visited, when you come to visit SIG, you'll notice the intent of the exterior is what we worked with. It looks like a log cabin. And we tried to aesthetically kind of match it up with our European roots. That said, that was because of necessity, not by design. When we bought the building, it was a very lonely prefab coffee shop that sat by itself in a parking lot, very lonely. Nothing else was down here. The state building was there, but there's construction around it. But we needed a place to brew, and it was quite literally the closest available spot to our old brewery. We can stand outside, and just point. It was there, and people get that connection. So we were very lucky to get the location, but we then had to work around the parameters of what the building really was. And so, we were able at that point to add onto the brewery. We're lucky to get hold of the lots behind us. So we have a beer garden. So, don't let size fool you. When you come see us, the tap room itself, I think seats 11 people. But the interior space, the covered patios, the brew house, we also have, but the beer garden itself seats over 100 with games and everything else you expect from a beer garden, all enclosed by a tent, which has not come down since pre-COVID.
Well, I was gonna say it's a cool spot, and I think that just also adds to the character and kind of maybe goes along with Sig's colorful history as well. You guys, I feel like have also done more events, recently, especially now as things kind of get back to quote unquote normal, whatever that is. Can you talk a little bit about some of the other things besides Commonfest that you have coming up? I think on tomorrow, Friday, when this releases, you'll have some music.
When this releases, we'll have one the very next day. So if you're watching this, come to SIG. We have Chris Hennessy playing on April 15th. It's gonna be a large concert. Everybody come down in the beer garden. Knock on wood, we're gonna have great weather at that point. So a nice large outdoor concert. We've got seating, bring chairs if you like. That's the biggest one. Immediately after that, there'll be food trucks. I cannot tell you at this moment what the food truck is, but we'll have food trucks. Oh,
bluegrass food.
It's bluegrass food. Still points to the calendar right in front of me. That's probably that's the nearest largest. Obviously, Commonfest is on the 30th. Derby, everyone should know when Derby is. We'll have Derby here. Our derbies consist of a day-long festivity starting in the morning. Kids races, people races. If you get the theme, it's a racing day. Dylan will probably, by that point, we'll have the Kentucky Common back out. Probably something seasonal. We still got a little bit of time on that. Basically, it's just kind of a day with the family. Come down, listen to the races all day, enjoy the weather, and just kind of hang out and drink beer. That said, those are probably the nearest three, but every weekend we have something. We do take pride continually year round. We never really stop the music here, even inside. So there's always Friday, Saturday night. There's some music act playing. We always have food trucks Friday and Saturday night. So don't judge the scale of the event. Every weekend there's something fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun out there, and like I said, it's a cool spot. And before I ask for one last Sig story, what are your kind of plans for the year? Obviously, I know you folks can find the Pilsner out and about on places. Anything else maybe coming down the line there that they can find, or just more good beers coming and good music?
Well, rumor has it we're expanding. So not to get into too many details, that is the plans for 2022. We've been blessed since we've been open, even during COVID, for the support we had, and that support's now grown to the point we can't match the support. So we need more facilities to make beer, and that's what we're working hard on getting more in-house and more other places to make beer for us, or actually for us to make beer in. With that, just a larger expansion right now. We're in Central Kentucky. I believe 13 Kroger stores centered around Lexington. We go all the way to Shelbyville, but we're not in Louisville yet. We're not in Northern Kentucky. So, with the expansion this year, we're hoping to launch Louisville by the end of the year, at least Louisville, if not Northern Kentucky. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, you'll probably see a few more cans come out. I mean, different styles. We've always held tight to the Pilsner since we opened up, because it is our flagship, and people really like it. But we do get requests for it, and other types. The Sig Light, that was particularly one that we want to can. The Kentucky Commons, is an obvious one. We've had the 66. If you've had our amber lager, it's the light and dark of Sig Luscher, and we've had it as long, if not longer, than the Pilsner. And so there's a huge following for it as well. So we're hoping to get those out by the end of the year as well.
Well, it sounds like some really cool things to look forward to, and hopefully 22 is another good year for y'all. And I figured we should finish it up with one last story on Sig, because the man, I don't know, you could write a couple books on some of his adventures. I feel like.
I'll let Tim take it home while I finish my brew.
Sounds good.
I appreciate it, Dylan.
Yeah, watch Dylan behind me. Yeah, next time we do this, we're gonna have some other stories. We do have a bar fight in our history that made national news, but usually the one that I end, if you ever come visit us or take a tour, is the story of the court case and Sig's expert testimony. And I'll apologize in advance for the very terrible butchering of a German accent, but for whatever reason, we got in the court documents, and that's what we found. How we found this was the court reporter wrote Sig's testimony down in phonetic English, so as he spoke. And the court case involved a gentleman that was accused of drunk driving on a horse. A lot of people first thing say, well, you can't do this. Yes, you can. You can get a DUI on a horse, a lawnmower. George Jones will testify that, a bicycle. Yeah, so be careful when you take off. But yes, horse is one. The argument always is the horse always knows the way home. And usually at that time they didn't have breathalyzers. So by morning, you were drunk. No, I wasn't. You were drunk. No, I wasn't. And that's how drunk driving cases probably win. In this case, though, they took it upon themselves. They really wanted to prosecute this gentleman. And so they brought Sig in as the expert witness on whatever drunken behavior is, since he was a local brewery, probably saw more than most. And they asked him point blank, Mr. Luscher, was this man drunk? And he pauses and says, well, gentlemen, I cannot tell you if this man is drunk. I can only tell you what I drink every day. Well, in the morning, I have about 6 beers. Lunch, about 6 beers. Dinner, 6 beers. And before bed, no more than 6 beers. But I can't tell you if this man's drunk or not. I can only tell you if any man gets drunk off beer, he's a damn hog. So yes, I'm not sure if today's alcohol laws really match to Sig's intake, because at the end of the day, you can probably take away that anything less than 24 beers, you're good to go, horse or not. I don't recommend that. I'm not saying Sig gave great advice. I said colorful advice, and maybe the better term.
Like I said, he had some colorful adventures, and man, is there some history with him. Like I said, the historically good brew or historically good beer that is even on the can. I love the history that you guys are able to share, and it's so cool because it's true. It's real history that folks can go find, and that isn't always the case where folks get to share stuff like that. And I appreciate y'all sharing that with me.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate you having us on the show. It's always been fun.
Absolutely.